So I'll call the meeting to order at just about 7 o'clock. First item on the agenda, additions, deletions, or changes. Are there any that we know of? I don't think so. Next item is to discuss, there's 3 items. Consider approving the fiscal year 18 water and wastewater budget. We will also talk about water, wastewater capacity, and plan to set water and wastewater rates. And we have some budgetary numbers that were in the packet, along with actually 2 memos from Eric Bailey, our wastewater and water, what's the title?
For the memo is...
Superintendent.
Oh, Utilities Director.
Yeah. Do you want to start us off?
Sure.
Eric?
All right. Stuff in front of me here. There we go. All right. Has everyone seen the little, have the little cheat sheet with them?
That's the memo.
The memo.
With sort of highlights on the budget. Do we want to just go through that?
Sure. So yeah, I kind of
That's the one dated June 21st. Does everybody have that?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's actually 2 pages with the bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. It is 2 pages.
Yeah. So starting with water, these just basically highlighting the drivers of the budget. Operating supplies is up. As everyone knows, we have a new water treatment facility. A lot of new costly chemicals, filter cartridges, supplies to run that.
So I did just a question on that. Do we think, so we see it's gone up, so you're saying, hey, it's using more materials, filters, things like that. I think that might be expected. Do you think that this is, that you budgeted 18 and we don't have where we are from 17? That would have been good to know, but do you think 18 is sort of typical what we'll have, and are these costs directly associated with the amount of flow? So if we were to increase the flow, they would go up, or is there a set amount that you're changing, and increased capacity might, will or will not directly
the flow
correlate?
Definitely will affect the supply use. But the flow this year for this one train is, higher than, representative, and it's high as it would be for a fair amount of development beyond what we are right now.
So this year we've run into a high consumption of water based on what we think are 1 or more very large leaks that are happening.
Right.
So if we got those under control, then, and increased capacity from actual use, then we don't think that this line would necessarily go up that much more.
Right. I mean, and obviously when you added another treatment train, it would basically double.
Yeah.
Maybe not, well, no, I'm sorry, it would not double. It would go
incrementally
up.
go up.
Yeah, it would go up a good bit.
Right, I guess that's the question is that...
It wouldn't double, it'd probably go up another...
50%.
50%. If you used it at that level.
Right.
If you are built out, it's going to go up, a good portion.
Are filters changed on a time basis or a usage basis?
It's a mix that is very individual per plant, and we're going to find it out.
So you'll trim this as you need it. So things.
It's just one of those things that your chemistry is going to do X gallons through these filters before you need new ones, and there's not a real good way to forecast that.
But do you measure the delta P across filters or something like that?
Right. That's exactly what we do.
Okay.
And
But you're still learning it. That, in
Right.
a way, what
Right,
you're saying
and we're
is
gonna
still...
extend that life some, I believe, with the pH adjustment we're doing,
Yeah.
that we're going to be doing. So, that's,
And how are you going to adjust the pH?
by adding, food grade,
Oh, yeah.
acid prior to the treatment system.
Yeah.
Where you bring the pre-filtration pH down to a pH of 6, and that's only on the, because remember, we have a split stream, part of the
Right,
water.
what's going through the nanofiltration will be adjusted, the pH
Right.
down to 6, with the expectation that the performance of the nanofilters will be better.
Much, yeah, and yeah, at least, the ISI knows that we're gonna get at least 10% back, we might get more. And like I said, that'll be a pH of 6. Of course, all the water goes through the initial filtration, then it splits. The side stream will not get pH adjustment. It runs about a 7.9. We are currently set up to raise pH, and we found out because of the nanofiltration, we thought we may have to raise the pH just from the filtration. We turned out not having to. Using this to bring it down to 6, even with as alkaline as our water is, with the side stream buffer, we figured out that we'll probably be using the pH raising the sodium bicarbonate. Anyway, it's not bicarbonate, it's caustic soda,
Sodium hydroxide.
hydroxide, thank you. We'll be using that just barely, so it's gonna
Just
try,
to tweak the pH up a little
Yep.
bit.
so it's gonna work out pretty well.
All right, I guess we can keep going unless somebody else has a question on the operating supplies.
So repair and maintenance supplies, that's up due to just the cost of parts when you have breaks in the system, mostly. And with that comes repair and maintenance labor, same thing. I did not bring it up to really cover a year like this year because we had a couple of, abnormally expensive breaks, which I'm not going to forecast those. Those are not the norm. So I brought it up, to cover most of it.
Is this labor, the repair and maintenance labor, it's broken out from like just normal labor to, I don't know.
Right, this is when we
Monitor
hire
the system?
contractors.
Oh,
This
okay,
is
got
when you
you.
get a big break in the street, you got
Yeah.
someone digging in,
Yeah.
right.
What about overtime?
That's
Have-
just,
is-
that's
have
just
we
part
had
of
a
the
lot-
salaries.
So that's factored into the
that-
salaries, a certain percentage of overtime.
And so then this isn't on call either. This is outside
This is
people
outside
we've
help.
hired.
This is-
Yeah,
this
and
is-
like you say, excavators or something like that.
Right. This is the companies that come in and, excavate and, do all the additional help you need when it comes to repairing a large pipe in a main road, and putting the pavement back.
Right.
All that-
Okay.
all the associated jobs that we take outside.
I think it just points out when we have water breaks and leaks, it's a sieve of money. I mean, not
it
only
is.
just the water
It
we're
absolutely is.
running and treating, and then, then it's
Yep.
the repair too.
Yep, you plug
And
a hole
overtime.
in a pipe by stuffing cash in it,
Yeah.
basically. Yep. Utilities is up. The new water facility is making, incredible water, but it loves power. Which,
Did we have estimates of how much it was gonna consume when we started, and
Not
is that
sure.
where we are? Or,
I'm not sure about that. That was before my transition into this seat,
okay.
so I don't know. It's
I
a
mean, it'd be
question.
good to just take
Yeah.
a look,
Right.
and then it'd be good to sort of set a sort of line in the sand and say, okay, here's what we're consuming, and then, hopefully finding ways to try to cut back or
Right.
save energy.
Yep,
So those are primarily pumps.
yep.
It's the nanofiltration, right?
So, yeah, so you're pumping, pumping pressure into the nanofiltration, then you're pumping, up to the
Tank.
the tank, and then you're pumping the wastewater from
Right.
there to the wastewater plant.
Yeah.
Everything's being pumped.
So this is the utilities for the entire system.
Correct. Yes,
Yeah.
and yeah, this isn't just that. This is the the electricity at the CVU reducer,
Right.
the electricity at the cemetery, the electricity at Piet Meadow.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
the electricity even at Lyman.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the electricity for any water system in town. Yeah.
And, but we don't have a, well, we'll talk about that later, about offsetting the costs for this with trackers. Which budget does that?
But that would go to the town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But you had mentioned the fact that the building was built
To
down
put-
there to put
Right.
trailers on, right?
Or to put panels on.
Put panels on the roof. The original design, which was only, 10% higher cost than we ended up paying. We lost 30% of the building, and we lost a solar wall, which was part of the original design.
You lost the solar wall?
Oh, yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, we had original design for that building with the additional space in the office.
Oh.
It also incorporated a solar wall on the on the south side. That was all stuff that was value engineered out of the project. That's 10% cost savings. We lost 30% of the building and that solar wall.
I'm not sure what a solar wall is.
There's some kind of, I don't know, it's photovoltaic, some kind of.
This on the roof?
No, it's the whole wall was solar. Whole south
Okay.
side wall. But, yeah, so the roof is set up for panels, plus the landowner is absolutely not opposed to us putting, more solar collectors in that field.
Some ground mount or something if
Yep.
you wanted. Yep, that's something to look at in the future.
Yep. So the bottom line, yeah, and then we go to the shared expenses. In salary, it looks like salary is down. It's not, obviously. It's up by, well, it is down in one way. We have a new employee who's not making as much as, John was making more than Bart is due to experience levels. And,
Slight shift.
So slight shifts there and some shift of my position, some shift of it to buildings and facilities.
And
At some point, can we have a new job description about what your job is and how this is, yeah.
Okay. Let's see, vehicle insurance is,
I mean, just go back to this. So
oh, sure.
We've, Renee, we've had discussions about making sure that, because you have shared time, Renee has shared time, everybody has shared time, and just, to just take a look at it once a year and sort of make sure it seems right, because sometimes
Seems to make
people
sense.
shift just a little bit, and you guys feel you're in good shape
Yep.
as far as the appropriation of time to the different budgets. And that's what this is getting at. So a
Right.
shift of 30% of the director to buildings and facilities.
Right.
And that's your time?
That's my time.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Yep. And then vehicle insurance, we basically get rid of the line because it's actually covered in both water and wastewater under the passive lines. So that's why that went to 0. Wastewater, things haven't changed much. We were actually able to whittle that down just by looking at things closer. So that's down a little bit.
I had a question back on the other one. The water, or I guess the shared, that's telephone. And is that telephone and
That's all communication. It's telephone, internet, pager, all wrapped into, it's all
okay.
one line.
So you guys carry pagers all the time, or just
Yes.
when you're on call?
We have, they rotate one, and I carry a second one.
And
And then-
cell phones?
Cell phones, we get a stipend to use our personal smartphones for work. It's a partial, it covers part of our bills, and that way people can get onto our systems and actually cut off a problem from wherever they are before they even respond. Yep.
And then you have internet at both spots?
Yep.
Yeah, to get the information out on
exactly.
that. And both of them, you can access the wastewater and the water
Yep.
with your phone? Yeah?
Yep.
All right.
So we ended up with just over 1% of overall increase. But we've also got a small shortfall in revenue, which we talked about last time. Okay. And so next year, we're going to be bumped up again because the actual bond for that new water facility will start
Will
paying.
hit. Yeah.
We start paying next year, and we also will start paying the lease on the utility truck next year.
And how much will the bond be per year, do we know?
About 45, I think.
And then the existing bond, 93 bond, that's how many years?
Okay, we've got, we have one that goes to 2026.
Oh, it says 232, so
Or
that
20,
one-
yeah, 2032, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
That's exactly why it says that.
Yeah, that makes sense. What a great title.
It's a great title.
And
yes.
then the other one is a 96 bond for the water.
Right.
Is that
And I'm not sure when that sunsets.
it would be good to rename it.
Yeah, rename it
That's
to
a
the end
great
date.
name.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Because there's
I
the
wanna
93 is the water.
I wanna say that's-
water,
that's
not the
96.
wastewater.
That must be the 20
96
But
is
is
the water.
wasn't there one
That
in
must be
93?
the 26.
We did an upgrade in 93, so there must have been a bond for that one?
It's not showing.
Oh,
That must be the 26 bond then, because I remember something about one being done in 26. It makes sense that 96 is done in 26. So that would be my guess. It's not in stone.
And so the new bond, we think, is 40-something. That'll be
It's
added.
45 grand. Yep.
And that'll be due this fiscal 18,
19.
19.
That'll be
Okay.
19. Yep. That was,
And, sorry, to go back to the water expenditures, line 14, for fiscal year 16, it said the actual was 0.
yeah, I don't know. So it might have been a NIMRIC
I
hiccup.
think that might be, Limerick, it's something
Mhm.
Cal was put in, but we can check
It's
on that.
probably a hiccup.
Okay. Just curious on that.
Yeah.
All right, so do we want to go over income before we talk about the bottom line? Or the bottom line is sort of,
Sure. Income, you see in the yellow, there's I don't know what they did. They accidentally budgeted for $13,000 interest, which back in 17, which was, I don't know, something happened there. We don't have the kind of money to have $13,000.
so that's just interest on capital money we
Right.
have, yeah?
Yeah, we don't have
Yeah,
that kind of
seemed
capital.
like a windfall.
we-
so that 13,000 is wrong.
Oh, yeah, it's wholly wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know what they did. So, we brought up water charges.
Was,
I actually forecast more water charges than that because people are using more water, but just using the same amount, that's what it brings it up to.
where does the income from the MBTBE settlement show up?
That was used as part of the
Yeah,
capital.
that's-
But doesn't it show up as income and then go out?
It's all gone though, I
That
think.
would have been in the
Last year,
previous-
maybe?
Okay. In
And
the 16 budget? Yeah. I just was wondering if the 1376 is somehow related to that, whether,
maybe,
okay.
maybe we can find out
Possible.
what that means. And
The other thing is I didn't budget any allocation.
I see that for
But-
both.
We probably will have a little bit Even if, you know, even if we don't allow, you know, any more allocation this year, there are properties that are already in, they've paid their deposits, you know, they're in,
Yeah.
and they just have to finish paying.
Yeah.
So there is possible allocation monies out there.
Well, wouldn't those be hookup fees?
No, there's hookup fees also.
Yeah, but
The
allocation, how do they pay the
The
allocation?
allocation, you pay, when you first apply, you pay a deposit. And, you know, and you get approved, and then once you are looking for your certificate of occupancy, then you have to pay the whole bill.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So,
There's some out
Or
there
there
now.
wasn't there the allocation was tied to, because you need to get that, it's not, I thought there was something that when they got their final permits, they paid, but it's not until they actually hook up?
it's when they're, you know, they have to have it paid before they can get the CO.
Okay. But before that, they've already paid a hookup fee as well. So
Right.
they're paying their hookup fee before they're paying their allocation fee?
I think it's about the same time.
Okay.
That's at the same point. But early on, they pay the whatever percent, I think it was like about a 5%.
Holding.
You know,
To
no,
hold the
just an
allocation.
application. Then if you sit on it, you pay a yearly holding fee.
Right, okay.
Right.
And both water and wastewater, I think the processes are the same.
Right, they have the same holding fees now. Right.
So even though we've got no budgeted allocation fees,
They're-
we expect we'll get some,
Probably get some.
maybe.
Probably get some. And my thoughts are it's best not to look at them for budgeting purposes anyway, because that money really isn't for today's
Right.
operations.
Right.
You know, that money is
It's
for tomorrow's
future-
development.
Right. Yep.
So you shouldn't count on it for the year-to-year operating expenses. Yep.
And we'll have some discussions about, not here right now, but we are having discussions about in how we would increase the water capacity to allow more allocation, and how much that would cost, and how much the added allocation would bring in,
Right.
the allocation fees. So trying to get a solid understanding of that.
Yep. So, you know, the allocation numbers are obviously down. They will be down, but there will be probably some. You know, both water and wastewater charges, my forecast is up because we have a slight rate increase, and I didn't actually put the, you know, I probably could have, I didn't forecast the increase in use when I made the numbers up. So we'll probably have even more income than that with the increase in use.
Okay, so then back to the bottom line.
Bottom line, I'm looking at, you know, a 1.22% overall increase in budget, but with income not really making it last time, I mean, I'm going to suggest, and it's in the other memo, a 4% increase in water and a 1% increase in wastewater rates, which is on the memo that's in the packet, which somehow didn't make it in my folder.
And
That's-
I think we didn't increase anything last year, it was zero, and I think,
On water, it was zero. We did have a wastewater increase.
okay.
Yep. Yeah, we didn't increase in water knowing that this was coming, but we didn't have a good feel for it.
So in your memo, you described the combined increases
Yep.
on a single residential unit is about $35 a year.
Yep.
Or $8.50 a quarter.
Yep. Or 66 cents a week.
I guess we're kind of in item, or yeah, item 3 or 4, so we're sort of
Yeah, we
talking
kinda-
about,
we kinda drifted down.
all 3 of those are together,
They're all,
so.
they're all related items. Absolutely.
Any comments?
Well, it's pretty straightforward, you know, what we were looking at here. We had some ideas along the way, but that doesn't get us to where we need to be immediately, you know, with this budget. You know, these solar being one, some cost savings there perhaps. Obviously finding the leaks.
Right.
You know,
That's probably the biggest.
that's probably the
Right.
biggest, as you know, it's a pretty start. It's like owning a boat, you know, you just throw money at it, right?
Mhm.
And that's how you make it float, right?
Right.
You know, so that's a huge thing. You have a note in the packet about our current situation there.
Right. And you know, the progress on the state side is, I've been bugging them to give me like dates in our packet. We've been promised a 3-day, you know, high-speed, you know, leak
Right.
detection. You know, the gods of leak detection will descend upon us, and
Yeah.
you know, and the
How practical is that, though? I mean, are we really waiting for anything that's going to bear fruit?
well, their apparently their equipment is much more modern and much more in depth than the people that are helping us now. So we'll see.
And is that to say that other towns have used it successfully, and we? Tell me about that, I guess.
Yeah,
Give me some reassurance.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is, if it doesn't, we're not behind any more than we already were because the state's paying for it versus us. I haven't had time to really ask those questions. We've been-
Have you talked to other towns that have
No.
used this program? No?
So Eric, my understanding, so just right now we have one guy that's coming with his
Right, we have
equipment.
one
So this would be a
professional from the-
team.
Yep, we have one technician from the Vermont Rural Water Association that's put in like 13 days so far, and he's coming back early next week.
Right.
So why do we keep having him come if we're waiting for the state to do their thing?
Because if I can find it before they get here, I'll, you know,
And we don't have a schedule for the state?
not yet.
Okay.
They'll give me one soon because I'm a pain in the butt.
Okay.
Do you need any other help with that? I mean, we have a representative here.
No,
and,
they're
you know.
they're being proactive. They're actually moving very fast for state. I mean,
Will there be a report when they're done of what's been done and?
I believe there will.
You know, recommendations if they don't find anything, what the next steps are?
I believe they
Because,
will.
I mean, it seems, and, you know, from a layman on finding water leaks, it seems like it would be a really good investment, even if it costs us money. It's gonna save us a lot and also allow us, you know, development to get back on track, at least a
Right.
small portion of development.
Right. Yeah, I believe they're well. I mean, part of the thing that's been taking long is their application packet is, you know, pages and pages, and we had to get it all together. And they, you know, it's all there, and now they just have to.
It's been submitted,
Oh yeah.
complete. Did they provide feedback that it's complete?
Oh yeah,
and-
they completed it with us.
Yeah.
It was-
Any
it was a
idea
team effort.
what you're feeling on the timing? Like 2 weeks,
I'm hoping
8 weeks?
Yeah, I'm hoping sometime in August. I mean,
August?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the feel I'm getting. And like I said, I'm staying, you know, every couple of days I'm asking, so I'm sure I'll get an answer at some point soon.
And then when they're here, we have to have resources available, like immediately start digging where they point us in the right spot.
Yeah, if they find a spot, then, you know, we'll set up a dig safe and dig it the next day. Absolutely.
Okay. And you have all the resources you need for that.
Yep.
But your anticipation is they're not going to find a spot, but rather lots
No,
of
I
little
think
spots?
they're gonna find 1 or 2 spots of, you know, very large and somehow being shuttled into a system that is taking it away.
Is it safe to...
Because we've got so much clay that if it wasn't, you know, if it was a lot of different stuff, we'd be seeing it.
Yeah,
know.
you had thought maybe it's getting into bedrock like it
Into
did up
bedrock,
in,
into some
Thistle
drainage
Hill.
tile, something.
yeah.
And so is it safe to assume once that happens, we find it, we fix it, we're just going to be in the same boat again in X amount of time? This is going to continue to happen? I mean, it's not like
I
the
don't
system's
know.
getting any younger.
I hope, well,
Pipes
there is always that. I don't know if the catalyst for this wasn't when we started the plan. Just the the initial
Yeah, you mentioned
pressures,
this
the
last
initial
time.
pressures were high. You know, the whole system is flowing in one direction, all of a sudden we threw it in reverse. You know,
Yeah, you had mentioned this last time, which is why I'm sort of asking this, and I guess where I'm going with this is, what is the long-term plan? Do we just keep
well, we should.
waiting for
we should
problems to
be
fix,
socking
or?
away, you know, when we have the funds, we should be socking away capital money for infrastructure, as should every municipality in the country. It's easier said than done.
Sure. And do
Absolutely.
we, as a board, have that information as to what we you know, like we pave X amount of roads every year, and we have a
Yeah,
plan?
no,
Do
we have a capital plan
for
this.
which, I guess, literally which
and
pipes
wastewater.
we're gonna
No,
replace?
I don't think we.
Because you can't,
It's expensive.
well, it's expensive, but, I mean, I guess what the question is should we come up with a capital plan that identifies we're gonna be replacing this section of pipe, this miles from, you know, Mechanicsville to Silver Street?
Right.
In, you know, so have a plan, or are we always going to be saving money, but still needing to react to where the problem
Exactly.
shows
Right.
up? I think that's your
Right.
question. Can we proactively start replacing
It'll take
pipes,
a while.
or do we need to
It'll take
do
a
it?
while. And
reactively.
what we'll need to do first is actually put pipes that we need that we don't have yet. Before we start replacing, there's pipes that don't exist.
So as
that-
we take
that
pipes
need to
offline, we
exist.
need that water still to flow in some direction.
Wait,
elsewhere.
you're just
Yep.
saying something, we don't have pipes where we need them?
Right.
Like
We don't
connecting to
sufficient pipe.
Lyman
Well,
Park, or
you know,
where?
well, there's that, but at the water plant, we have the main that runs across Haystack in one direction.
Right,
In the other direction, it goes 12 inches to the edge of Shelburne Falls Road, then it turns to 2 inches. And then it runs up Shelburne Falls Road to the intersection of 116 CV Road, and then it turns to 4 inches. That's not a sufficient
But
transmission main.
is that our responsibility, or is that the developer's responsibility?
Well, that's,
It's our
when
existing
develop, that's something
infrastructure.
we can work with
No,
when,
it's not our existing infrastructure, it's infrastructure that got put in by developers.
Well, maybe so, but
it's ours now.
it's ours now, is my
Right.
point.
We do own it.
Yeah,
we
well,
own
But-
I'd like to know why that would have happened, but we're talking about
Yeah.
the budget
Right.
right
Yeah,
now.
let's
Right,
get-
but I'm saying that's one of those, that
Right.
line needs to be upgraded to, you know,
Yeah.
a sufficient line sooner than later. That'd be the first one on the list.
Yeah. So I think the discussion is, you know, we've got this leak problem, we've got to solve that, that's sort of short term. Then, you know, we've also got some infrastructure that we've already installed that we've got to figure out and tune, you know, fine tune it. So we need to do that to, you know, get it as efficient as possible, which takes a little while, I understand
Right.
that. Then there'll, you know, and there'll be some development happening more than likely. That will continue to put some strain on the system. But,
Yep.
you know, maybe there'll be a point when we've kind of, let's say, at least for a while, maxed out development, and then there'll be a lull, and hopefully we continue to put money away for capital.
Absolutely.
And then we may end up identifying one or more areas to systematically upgrade, particularly if there's any area that consistently gets leaks.
Absolutely.
Or, you know, a bottleneck that you're talking about that might put less stress other places. So there's certainly opportunity there, but for
And I
this
think that
year,
what I'm
really,
talking-
it's to get the plant operating as efficiently as possible. That's gonna help keep the costs from continuing to increase, and fixing the leak will help contain costs too. So
Right.
those would be the two main objectives.
Yep.
And, you know, I was worried about the budget a little bit, but then thinking about, yes, it is important to continue to put capital money aside, then that says your budget should be at least not squeezed to the last penny, but, you know,
Right.
a comfortable budget that you know you're going to make, and hopefully be able to put some capital, continue to
Absolutely.
put capital into the infrastructure.
Absolutely. Yep, it's my, you know, I always like to, it's good to have a little bit of cushion in a enterprise budget, because at the end of the year, if you didn't have, you know, a horrible year, you don't, that money doesn't go away. You can set it in a reserve. So, yep.
Phil, thanks.
Yeah.
I was here for this discussion.
Yeah.
I'm Jeff Glassberg. I'm here representing Jan Blomstrand and Wind Energy Partners.
Yes.
We had hoped to be paying an application fee for water, and had submitted an application back in April.
Yes.
At that point, there was 498 gallons of allocation supposedly available for enterprise purposes in the village northeast zone. And so leading up to April, we had worked collaboratively with the planning department and with the DRB to do some plat revisions to allow us to have a relatively straight path for some light industrial development on the property just south of Riggs Road. That development would be in keeping with the approved sketch plan for the overall site. So it was compatible with that approved sketch plan. That's on hold because of infrastructure issues. So this was a somewhat clever way of trying to weave, you know, put the eye of the needle there.
Sure.
And we were, of course, disappointed when, you know, we weren't able to get the allocation. We've been understanding that you're working hard at trying to find the leaks, and we appreciate that. Tonight's conversation was really important to hear, because it helps us know that you're aware of these issues and the impact on jobs and growth and grand list and all the rest. We're poised to try to bring some business and jobs to Hinesburg, and we need a really straight path to be able to do that. So just roughly, the 498 gallons translated to about 35 to 40 employees. It's about 15 gallons per day per employee for non-water intensive businesses. So we felt like it was a start on what, you know, maybe if there were annual allocations, and we have a few footprints on that lot, you know, businesses could start there, expand over time, so on and so forth. So we're anxious to try to do that. I'm glad to hear that you've got a methodical approach to how you're trying to get at this. One thing that I had discussed with Trevor some time ago, and I just want to mention it because I didn't hear discussion about exploration, and maybe I didn't hear it because it's hard to hear.
It wasn't discussed tonight, but
okay.
it is going on. Like we've started it. We've drilled. Well, we've partnered with the landowner and drilled a well that has great potential.
Yep.
We're currently in negotiations with how that's going to finish out.
And that's what I wanted to mention, because I had mentioned to Trevor that we'd be willing to cost share as part of that. So
Excellent.
we understood there wasn't budget for that purpose. It didn't sound like it was a lot of money. If it helps move the ball forward, we have an interest in trying to
I think as
Well,
far
since
as,
you're here,
as far as development of new sources, we've tapped a couple of spots, you know, that we were hoping would be worthwhile.
Yep.
Didn't really find anything as far as town well. We've been approached by a developer who said, I've tapped on a well, you know, that maybe we could be used, and we've had some discussions with them. We're looking at what that would look like, and I think we want to make sure that it's cost effective for the town. It's, I'll say, fair to all the developers, and, you know, know, and it could very well be a good opportunity. So we are sort of looking at that.
Great.
With a fine-tooth comb, I think, you know, having different people look at it, and from planning and zoning to everybody else. So we are, you know, beginning to really dig down into that. I think the water leakage issue kind of snuck up on us. And so all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute, we got to really fix this problem here, because we're just throwing money down the drain in a way. But and so it's good to hear you saying, hey, you'd be willing to be potentially involved in this. To what we don't want to do is hold back appropriate development that meets our town plan and all that. So I think we're all on the same page, and we're all sort of, I'll speak for myself, trying to figure out exactly where we are and the directions we can move in.
Going back to an earlier discussion, you know, having looked at your plat and all, and where it goes over the hill and all that stuff, it's going to be very dependent upon an expansion of line, and so that we'll probably come to you guys to help us out with that main I was talking about that's undersized, because it's going to go right past all your stuff. And that's going to be probably something that we might want a partnership on, because it'll make it possible.
As you know, as more information comes out, you know, I'll ask Eric to keep everybody informed on where we are as far as finding the water on a regular basis, and when we get to a point, you know, looking at this other source, you know, one way or the other, we'll make sure everybody knows about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Much appreciated.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Great.
So we've got a potential for a motion for the recommended budget.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposed budget, expenditures and revenues as presented.
There's a recommended motion.
Okay, hang on a minute. I just lost my, or somebody else could make it if they have it in front of them.
That's the rate
have it.
motion.
I have it. You got it? Huh?
Hang on.
Well, the only reason we like to read it is it has the actual numbers in it.
Right.
That's the recommended rate motion, not necessarily the budget motion.
Okay, right, sorry.
It looks like
So her motion works fine for
Yeah.
the budget.
looks like there are three different
Okay,
things.
I'll make a motion to adopt the following rates for water and wastewater for fiscal year 18. Do you want me to do that motion? Water, $83.67 per unit, both metered and unmetered, and 0.037 per cubic foot per quarter usage fee metered, and $64.31 per quarter usage fee for the unmetered. And the wastewater rates would be $98.83 per unit per quarter, both metered and unmetered, and 0.0355 per cubic foot per quarter usage fee for the metered, and $67.07 per quarter usage fee for unmetered.
$64.
$64, sorry.
All right, is there a second?
I second it.
All right, so we have a second. So this just sort of describes how the fees would change depending on how you're charged. Some people have meters,
Right.
some people don't have meters.
Right.
Ends up being the combined about a little under $35, an average, a little under $35 per
The
year.
year.
Any other discussion?
Well, you know, it's expensive.
It is.
And, you know,
Yes.
it's like $800 a year works out to about
Oh, for somebody who's got
For somebody
the whole
who's got
system.
both water and wastewater,
right.
adjust the basic rates, not on any usage. So, you know, I think people will go, well, I could drill a well for $4,000, but you have the annual maintenance on a well,
Right.
and so it is an expense. I think it's the one question that comes up is, will that rate ever go down if we had more users? And I think from listening tonight, the more water we put through the system, the more our operating costs go up. And
To a point, it's not one for one.
right,
You know,
Because you got the same amount
there's
of
definitely an
labor
economy of
and-
scale.
yeah,
I mean, which is easily pointed out when you look at CWD. You know, obviously they're a huge scale,
right,
and you know their rates are much lower because of the scale.
right,
And if you look at towns, basically you could actually look at it even not on CWD. The smaller villages pay more per user. We're better than Richmond
yeah,
because we have more users. So it does, the pain does lessen with a bigger base of customers.
but if we double the users, we're not
Cutting.
having the
We're not cutting it in
costs.
half.
Right.
We're not cutting it in half.
So there's a couple of, things on that same topic is, certainly the town plan and the village district is to have almost all the growth in that area.
Right.
All of those folks will be on the enterprise system.
Right.
So, the expectation is we will get more users to try to water down the overall costs.
Right.
And we're gonna try to get a bit more efficient on the system too, so, but we do understand this is a costly, benefit. And,
Absolutely.
that not everybody, can easily afford it.
Nope.
So,
I guess I'd also like to suggest, and I don't know where that, whether that's considered part of our capital expense, but that we really should be looking at what the cost benefit is if we could be generating some electricity.
Right.
Since that is a high cost, and we
Right.
know that we could do that.
Yep.
So the
Absolutely.
sooner probably we do that,
yeah,
the
it would be
better.
better.
Right.
And then I would add to all of this, being very mindful of raising rates and needing to redouble our efforts on communicating with our users.
Oh,
We've
Right.
had a couple of very high-profile water issues this year where we've had to turn off the water and they didn't go exactly as planned.
Right. Right. And that brings us back to last meeting. You folks looked at the Vermont Warren system.
yeah.
We probably need to look at possibly adopting that.
Yeah, I think there's an expectation that will come to the board at the next meeting. We've
Yeah.
got a recommendation from both Chief Koss and Al Barber, and I think others
And
in
me.
the town.
I can
that
appreciate
it's-
that comment, but I still don't want to I don't want to make my meaning here lost.
Right.
That is, that we need to minimize, not tell people that it's happened or when it's coming on, but rather at the very beginning, just minimize these as much as possible.
Oh, sure.
And I know you agree,
Absolutely.
but finding ways to prevent it from happening in the first place and then
Right.
anticipating them.
Right, which we are doing to some extent right now. Like, for instance,
But I just want to make it really clear that I got many people yelling in my ear
oh yeah,
about this, as I'm sure you did.
I've got a
And-
bunch of people.
And I need to really make sure that that is said here tonight during this to 600 or 700 kids in a school and
Yep.
having to close down for the day, which then impacts many hundreds of other people
Absolutely.
right down the line. It's no small thing to turn the water off.
No, it's not.
All right, and one other item of discussion I wanted to bring up is, so this will need to be announced. And I don't know what our typical way to do it is to put some information in the bill, the next bill that goes out, because that's where it would be.
Right.
So
That's the
who
first
normally
option.
crafts that?
So, I
Who
missed that.
normally crafts that communication?
I'm not
Something
Is it
you
a
could
collaboration?
I don't know who normally does it, but I'll do it.
Yeah, and maybe.
just give it to Cheryl
And give it to
see.
Cheryl, yeah.
Yep.
And when it's done, not necessarily that we want to approve it, but it'd be good to, you know, float it a little bit.
Yep,
just
run
to
around the horn.
You might get some suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot
Absolutely.
of it now.
I know.
Yeah, the new billing is better.
It is better.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I still have to read it over. I think including the little thing that tells you, you know, that has the calculation of gallons to cubic feet, if it could be printed on the bill itself, I don't know. The first one that came out was great, and I read it, and then the next quarter, which I just got, I'm like, okay, what did that old one, what did all the information in the first new billing package say?
Right.
So would it be helpful to repeat that?
I think repeat it every so often. It's at least,
At least on a
Yeah.
quarterly basis.
well,
we
we
get
get
them
the bills
quarterly.
on the quarter.
Quarterly
Yeah.
basis, so.
Once a year.
We don't, once a year maybe. Or,
Right.
And then I have one more comment too, if you were all set.
yeah.
And that is, do you have any recommendations for what users could do or what initiatives we could take as a town to try to lower people's water usage?
Sure.
And maybe this is an energy commission kind of
I mean, there's-
initiative or some.
Well, I think we'd ask the question of how many residential users go above the minimum quantity? And those would only be the meter people, right?
Well, I mean, very few people have have a minimum bill. People.
Oh, they
Yes.
were up above that.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Okay.
the minimum bill is 500 cubic feet, and then there's no minimum on wastewater. It's all metered.
Right.
So 500 cubic feet is
Times 7.5.
yeah,
right?
it's like 3,500 gallons or whatever.
Okay, so then that's probably worthwhile
Yeah.
to, provide some information, and maybe the Energy Committee might be one to provide some basic information of, here's 3 things you can do to
Right.
reduce your water usage, and therefore reduce your bill and overall costs too.
I'm thinking about trying to save that $35 a year back that we just upped.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems like an attainable goal.
Oh yeah. I mean, the first thing you can do is, dump a little food coloring in your toilet and see if it moves. A leaky toilet.
Right,
Sometimes
leaky
sometimes
toilet.
leaky toilets
So-
are silent.
All right, so we don't need to go through
Yeah,
all of
there's
them,
no
but I
cost.
think there might be an opportunity
Sure.
there, even through
some
the
education.
Front Porch Forum or
Mm-hmm.
in the bill.
Frankly, I think it's pretty difficult when you live in a climate like this, and it seems like every week we're about to flood, to think that we need to reduce water. But
ironic.
there are a lot of things in Southern California that they have been doing for years. And I think that when people realize that it's going to reduce their bill, if you
Right.
can make that really crystal clear on the bill, how reducing the water, how much they need to reduce
A
it, how
leaky
much.
toilet costs you X amount a year.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Dripping faucets cost X amount a year. If we can equate it against our bills, that might be something.
Yep.
So maybe we could ask the Energy Committee to put together a
There you
one-page
go.
sheet that.
That could go out every time, because
could
a
go out
quarter,
with the
it's a
bill,
long
it
time.
Could go on Front Porch Forum.
Yep.
There may be opportunities to.
No, if we did it every time, you make the clerk's office mad because they get to fold all those.
Yeah.
Just to put an extra sheet in the bill.
It's just an extra. I don't know.
So we got a motion on the table. Is there more discussion on it? Do we need to repeat it? I guess not. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, so the motion's passed.
Okay, so that's the rates. We now have to
Right.
do the budget.
We will do the budget. And while we're on this, I did get Tom, I meant to mention Tom Ayers was not able to join us tonight, but he did have one question, which I think I know the answer, but it might be worth asking you. He said, we have brine that comes out of the nanofiltration, that
Right.
we send to the wastewater treatment plant.
Right.
So his question was, does it have to go to the wastewater treatment plant? Could it be a direct discharge, an NPDES permit? And I think those are pretty impossible to get
Right.
and
I mean,
costly, and I'm not sure what the
The-
quality of the water coming, the brine coming out
I
is
mean,
like.
the water coming out of the brine is gonna be very high in minerals, and I haven't approached the state about it, but knowing DEC, my guess is there's, somewhere between a 0 and 0 chance of them.
Well, I mean, it
accepting
doesn't matter what they do,
But-
it really is
right.
the quality of the water that comes
Right.
out, whether you could apply for a direct discharge permit.
Right.
So the question is it even close, or is it,
Yeah, we'd have to test it, which is not that hard to do.
yeah, it might be worth just knowing the answer so that next time somebody asks, we could say,
Right.
it can't be done, or if it actually could be, is it something we'd pursue and what the cost would be?
Right.
Because,
That'd be huge.
that's something you're gonna be doing for the next 30 or 40 or 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can recapture those minerals or something.
Yeah.
Dehydrate it, or whatever, evaporate off the water.
Yeah.
In terms of wastewater, there's the whole concept of gray water. It doesn't need to go through a sewage treatment plant. It can just go, like the water from your washing the dishes, can just go right back to the earth. So I was told that's not legal in Vermont, and you're not set up for it, but
Wait.
it would be a big help.
It
It
would.
would be impossible to do. I mean, you'd have to double pipe everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, not for new construction.
No, that's true.
It's not practical to, instead of discharging it into our system, truck it somewhere at a lower
Oh,
cost.
that would be higher.
Yeah,
Trucking is
more
prohibitive.
money.
Yeah, that's prohibitive.
Mm-hmm.
If you could somehow discharge it to the brook, which I don't see that ever happening. But, and the problem is the soils there are pure clay.
Yeah.
So a soil recharge is gonna be just, physically almost impossible.
Yeah.
If we had better soils,
Maybe.
it might work. Maybe.
Mineral water.
Right, you could, yeah,
There you go.
heat it up with some
Yeah.
source of heat.
Yeah.
All right, I think we need another motion
Okay.
for the actual budget.
That plaque behind.
So the motion I made about accepting the budget?
That was the rates.
Yeah.
I know,
this
I
one,
made one
just-
before
Oh,
that.
originally before it.
Right, it was.
You did that, and then you got.
Yeah, we jumped
Copy
into the
that.
other one.
Yeah.
So the motion would be to increase the water rates by 4% and
No, we've already done that.
oh no.
That's done.
1%.
No, approve the budget.
Approve the budget.
That's what I'm.
You just need to
Okay.
approve the budget. We've already done the rates.
As presented, okay. Thanks for that correction.
Make that budget,
All right.
revenues and expenditures as presented.
2 for 1.
All right.
So I
Is there a second?
I can second that.
Thank you for doing that. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, so the motion passed. Okay. I think that's it. So good luck on
Thank you.
the search. I think it would be good to put out some general communication to people in the town, knowing
Yep,
that
I've been-
we're searching for this, and, keep your eyes open, and that, if we had said that there might be a time when we might have to isolate different areas, so it might be good to just sort of mention that, and if we were to do that, we would certainly let everybody know it'd be done at a certain time.
My current tact on that was I was waiting for a very soon announcement of approximately when the state was coming.
Okay, that
Tell
would be,
them what we've
yeah.
been doing, what's coming,
Yeah,
so if you
the
see
cavalry's
these people,
coming.
you see these people in your yards, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And then that way, that gives them a heads up, and if that doesn't work, then I'll float another one about,
Yeah,
it's gonna get hard now.
yeah. I
Yeah.
guess the fact is, nobody really knows, because
Right.
they're not feeling it.
Right.
But I think the town's starting to feel it, and certainly you and your
Right.
team is
Right.
feeling it
Oh,
every
yeah.
day.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about how it's disappearing because it's.
Right.
So it seems like the hardest places we find everywhere where the water pipe goes under a stream.
Right, stream crossings, drainage tiles, ledge areas,
Yep.
And we've really, went into, we've gone into detail in those areas as much as we can. I mean, to the point that we, don't tell Al, lowered the canal a little bit for a couple of days.
It's been plenty high.
Yeah, we actually dropped the canal down so we could look around the canal better.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, thank you, Eric. Thanks for putting those memos together to help
Yep.
us to digest the budget. Thanks, yeah. We're ready to move to agenda item 6. But before that, I did want to mention that there was a nice luncheon for Mike Anthony. When was that? Thursday?
Tuesday,
Wednesday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
It was Tuesday.
Tuesday,
Yeah, I was meant to come, but I couldn't.
After 35 years of service, and I did ask him, what did he do on his first day? And he picked rock, he thought he picked rocks behind the grader. And made either 290 or 310 an hour or something like that.
Something like that, when we started out as.
So I pointed out he's at probably doubled his salary since coming, so.
I think he was very appreciative of that. And he did mention to me that, after 35 years, every day he still does want to come back to work, and I think he takes a lot of pride in it, so.
It certainly does.
He's
Yeah.
a very good example of the employees that we have here.
I did get a picture of the cape, by the way,
Oh,
which
good.
had some equipment stuck in
wish
the
I-
mud, it looked like.
Well, I couldn't come, but
Yeah, I meant to come, but
Well.
I couldn't.
He knew everyone wanted to be there and appreciated it, and we also did something for the town for he and Tammy, and so I talked about what they wanted to do, because I know Mike doesn't take time off, and because they've been short-staffed, and so they're doing something this weekend that
Good.
we applied our
Good.
gift to.
All right, so the next item is approving the audit engagement letter. This is with, I'll try saying, Fothergill, Segal, and Valley. They're our auditors. We've used them at least for a while. I think it's been at least 3 years since we went out to bid. We had thought about going out to bid for this year, but based on interim town administrator and a number of other things, we thought, well, we'll go ahead and we'll continue to use them one more year. The expectation is we'll go out to bid next year. And we've been totally satisfied with
Absolutely, there's been no issues.
their performance throughout the town, town clerk and whatnot. So I think the letter is in the packet, if everybody had a chance to read it, 3 or 4 pages of legalese.
it basically says they're not responsible
Yeah,
for anything.
they'll do the best job they can, but yeah.
It's the standard letter that you've seen each time, I guess.
So if there was a motion and we did approve it, I would sign it and we could move through
I'll
that.
make a motion to approve the audit engagement letter with Fothergill, Segal, and Valley for our fiscal year 17 audit, and to authorize the town administrator to sign the letter.
That's what was.
I'll second that for you.
Okay,
It's not select board member, so
Yeah.
we could edit that to, we had town administrator in the past.
Oh, it did?
But they have
Yeah.
written,
so it says, yeah, I'll just sign it.
okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Okay,
Yeah,
authorize
so
the
that's-
chair to sign it?
It's-
Is that what you wanted?
Yeah,
to
it
say?
says select board member,
Okay,
so,
I'll authorize the chair. You gonna accept my amendment?
okay, so we have amendment. Any more discussion on the engagement letter? Hearing none, we'll take, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, none opposed, so that's passed. We'll sign that. The next item is the lease financing for municipal vehicles and equipment. And maybe you could just tell us which vehicles and what exactly this is?
Sure.
All right.
So I think you guys all have the memo that I put in this afternoon. The RFP that went out, the bids were due yesterday at 4 p.m., so I reviewed all of those, and Trevor has actually been working with me on this and helping to put together this memo. And so the equipment that we are replacing includes the loader for the highway, a new dump truck for highway, and a plow truck, a regular pickup truck for the highway department, 2 police cruisers, and then 1 utilities pickup. And so we received a total of 4 bids, and the lowest bid that came in was from our local bank, the National Bank of Middlebury.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
So I noticed under Community Bank, formerly Merchants Bank, who we've done a lot of business with in the past prior to them becoming Community Bank, declined to respond is what that says. Did
Well,
they give any indication? as to
Yeah,
what that's
no,
all about?
it was just, some banks have different policies regarding the type of financing they can do, and so they don't do the lease financing
So is that
type
a
of
change with the
strategy.
new ownership of the bank?
I don't know that it's
Is that
necessarily a change, no,
indication
because I
of
don't think they did as well.
Change in relationship? Because I know
No.
Merchants was
No,
always
it's
really
not
nothing
anything
like that.
related to that, it's just what the policy of each bank. Each bank has different underwriting and different,
Each bank,
yes, so it's was not related to them not wanting to do business with us or anything like
so
that.
even
It was-
prior to, if this was still Merchants Bank, they still would have been in the same decline to respond
I
category.
believe I wasn't actively involved in those before, but I suspect it was the same. Yeah.
Thank you.
And so it appears Middlebury, that National Bank of Middlebury has the lowest rates. And interesting how the police cars are lower than the other ones.
It seems with all of, for the most part, all of them, I think municipal leasing had the same for both 3 and 5 year, but the 3-year terms were a little bit lower interest
Oh, I
rates than
see.
the 5-year.
I see,
Yeah.
that's the reason.
Yeah, that's
Yep,
the difference.
Makes sense. And I imagine these were about as we would expected
Yes, yeah.
going into the budget.
Actually, the interest rates were, pretty good
Yeah,
compared to,
they still are, 2.2.
right, yeah.
And that's what we calculated when we did the budget?
Yeah, I mean, some of these actually are a little better than,
Yeah, because it wasn't at 3 or something?
What's that? I think so,
Yeah.
something around there. So, yeah. So I think
So
it's
if
good news.
this, these have all been basically budgeted and we've had discussion on all of them, this is really just a financing decision, who we take the loans from or the leasing from. So maybe we could have a motion?
And there's motion
I'll
language.
make a motion to authorize staff to secure a lease financing plan from the National Bank of Middlebury for an amount not to exceed $466,000.
Second it?
Any more discussion?
Maybe we should put in the motion what it's for. For
Sure.
the 2017 Volvo loader sweeper, the 2017 Freightliner Highway Department truck, 2017 Ford F-350 Highway Department truck with a plow and a crane, and a 2017 Ford Interceptors, which are the two police vehicles, and a 2017 Ford F-350 for the Utilities Department.
I think a couple of things with the highway that were not expected, I think, when we budgeted, but we were able to get within the cost was the sweeper, I think, added sweeper, and then that little crane that will help do some of the work. So both of those were additions of functionality, but not necessarily additional cost. So, is there a second for that?
I
motion?
second it.
Marilee?
I second it.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And none opposed, so the motion passed.
A follow-up question?
Sure.
What's the next step on those vehicles?
So now I will be contacting National Bank of Middlebury, doing the paperwork with that, getting that started.
Yep.
And then the police cruisers, it'll take a while because they have to be,
Outfitted.
all outfitted and
Yep.
everything, so they'll take some time. The loader is here, will be here ready
Yep.
to be, go ahead and purchase. Utility truck was supposed to be, apparently there was a plant shutdown, and so that's been delayed, because then it also has to come to Iroquois Manufacturing for the body, and so that
Yep.
can't be done until we actually have it. So, what else? Highway pickup should be here in a couple weeks. I
So
think.
pretty quick.
Yeah, so for
Financing
the most
is-
part, everything, yeah, the financing will be a quick turnaround.
Financing is a day or two or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the paperwork and
Yeah,
everything.
and then
Yep.
we can take delivery pretty quickly.
And then we can take delivery quickly, yes.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, Town Administrator Report.
What about the
Oh,
stuff to this, oh, is that the, sorry.
That's just part of the, I added that. So you guys had asked, when we had the public hearing, if we could have, show you guys the list of the complete set of comments, when we, to send them in, before we sent them in. And so that's just included in your packet. I did, just to note, I did send Randy an email right before this meeting, because we had talked about, I think, Andrea, you and I were talking to one of the DEC people after
Yes.
the meeting, and just commenting on what the number of users we have and the rates. And so he had intended, my understanding, to incorporate that, so I gave him that information. So I just double checked to see if something had changed, if they felt like that wasn't incorporated, or if he just missed it. So
It is in there.
it is. You did
Yes.
see it in there. Okay.
Yeah,
See, I did
it's-
a
I
quick.
didn't see it in
It's,
there.
I read the whole thing.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
just to clarify, so what we're talking about, we have the new wastewater permit,
Just draft.
draft permit provided by the state, and we had a public meeting last Thursday, where it was sort of presented and an opportunity for comments, and the town right now has in hand a document of our comments with the help of
Randy
our
Bean.
consultants, Randy and Wayne. And so that is getting ready to be submitted. And there were primarily concerns about the permit in maybe timing of some items, and some of the sampling methodology and technology requirements. And what we're talking about is wanting to share with the state what the cost is, and how much cost there is, and how it will, impact the users.
A substantial portion of the comments, though, deals with what rules are being applied, especially regarding the ammonia. And that, we submitted it, and that it was actually quite a shock to us that with this permit, we were going to be required to do the ammonia upgrade. Until that meeting, I think we had been under the understanding from the state that we wouldn't have to do that until our next permit. So that will be interesting. I'm wondering whether this is going to necessitate our legal fees in arguing this, or is it?
Hopefully not.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems pretty straightforward, but.
Okay.
So that'll go in today or tomorrow, it'll be submitted on time.
Yes, yeah.
One way or the
And
other.
Phil, did I understand correctly that you were going to meet with the state and explain our situation? Because I remember she said that they didn't mean to have this be a huge burden, that they were willing to work with us, and the timeline seemed like it was flexible.
Yeah, so I'm not personally meeting with them, but we've submitted these comments, And I think we opened up the line of communication saying we'd be willing to do that, but I think they'll probably look at our comments, and there may be an opportunity to have a meeting at that point.
Okay.
So,
And basically, I think we've hired through Aldrich and Elliott, Randy Bean to be our technical expert in helping us understand what both the technical and sometimes I think the permittable things of what they can be asking for. I think it's important that we recognize, and I personally would say, is that I want to do everything we can to assure that we are discharging clean water there, but we have to understand, I think, the constraints which the state is acting on from EPA and what our real concerns are, and make sure that we are cleaning up our effluent, so we're not impacting the chemistry or the biology of the river. And I think we feel pretty confident that we have been operating the plant to do that, and so these new requirements we're just trying to assure that if we do these upgrades, they're actually going to result in a cleaner lake and a cleaner river. Yeah.
And if I could add to that, acknowledging the work that we do around town, that also contributes, that we spend money on, that also contributes to clean water that isn't necessarily revolving around
the water treatment system.
The water treatment
such
system.
as stormwater.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And making sure that that is credited properly in this equation for us.
I don't know if you've already mentioned or pointed out, but Randy also added on the last page, that the town is requesting that the agency, after the agency has considered these comments and modified the draft permit, that the revised draft permit and fact sheet and reasonable potential analysis be placed on public comment to allow the town to review and comment on these documents before the revised draft permit is issued as a final effective permit. So we don't know if they'll do that, but he's put that request in as well.
Anything more on the town administrator's report?
I guess looking ahead for next week's meeting, right now for the agenda items will be the Baldwin Road intersection. We'll have Tyler Billingsley back, and he had presented his plans at the last time we had this discussion. There were some questions that people had, and so he has his answers to those questions that he'll have in your packet. Mike Anthony mentioned wanting to do a review of the road standards to get our road standards policy, and so he's hoping to be able to have some time to look at that and for next week's meeting, but if not, we'll try to put it on the one after that. Setting the tax rate is on the agenda for next week. The Vermont alert system, so hopefully you guys will be able to just do a quick approval of that and get that set in motion, because there's training and everything involved. And then we had the resident, I think I'd mentioned last time, from CB Road that is requesting the town's assistance with a culvert issue. So those are the items that I have for the August 3rd meeting. Just want to check and see if everybody's okay with those, if that's...
It seems good.
Okay.
I think the...
And we're going to have the board of the BCA meeting.
Right.
Is going to be 10 minutes prior to that,
Okay.
maybe.
Yeah.
So, but it's really important that all the select board members come, because we're counting on,
We need 10 people.
we need 10 people, and if the 5 of us are there, then it means only 5 other people, and sometimes it's hard to get all 10. So please come,
Yeah.
whether we start our meeting 10 minutes late
Right.
or
It'll
work
be
that out
fairly
with,
quick.
What time does that start?
well, I think if we call the meeting for 7, and call our meeting for starting at 7:15, the select board meeting, but
Oh.
the BCA meeting starting at, check with Missy,
Yeah.
she's sending out the,
Okay, so the BCA meeting would be here?
yes.
Okay.
During this time.
During
and
this
maybe
time.
just
Yes.
start it, and I think it'd be all right to start at 6:45 if we wanted, or we
But
could start
then,
at
but
7.
select board members need to get here at
Right.
6:45.
Right,
And, yeah.
be a part of the
So maybe we
BCA.
need to, I'll put out an email just to, I mean, how do you want to handle that as far as setting it?
Well, I think
The
to work
time.
it out with Missy, because we
Yeah.
have to coordinate to make
Okay.
sure that the 5 other BCA members show up, but it's
At the right
predicated
time.
on all 5 of us showing up.
Okay.
Would that be an issue for you, Marilee, or Aaron, to start at 6:45?
I can make that happen.
So if that's the best way
Okay.
to do it, we can do it
Okay.
that way.
Starting the VCA at 6:45, okay.
You can, and I talked with Missy.
Okay,
She said have it start at the beginning of the select board meeting.
Yes, but we didn't say,
It's not warned yet,
it's
so.
not warned yet. and so-
Yeah, would like to know who can make it on August 3rd around 7 or just before. So yeah, and I can do either 7 or
Okay.
6:45.
and how long do you think you guys need?
10
for-
minutes.
10 minutes, is that,
Yeah,
okay.
it's really a
Yeah,
formality in a way.
got it. Okay.
Did you want to mention anything about Gilman Road? Just a little bit.
So Gilman Road with,
The health issue
health
from last
order.
year.
From
Oh.
last year. So those are still ongoing concerns. I think some of the neighbors are becoming increasingly upset, you know, rightfully so, because the issue hasn't improved, and I think they're looking into the winter and thinking about the rats and all of that. So they had a request to find out what steps have taken place from the different changes of health officers that we've had, and so I need to kind of compile that information so that I can give that to them.
In my conversations with the health officer, I think quite a bit has happened in terms of steps.
Yes.
So I think, and maybe you're involved with both those conversations, both of you, maybe. So I think that's a pretty easy thing to get. Has it resulted in any changes yet? I
Right.
think that's the real
It's a
question that
hard-
they want the answer to, and the answer probably is not.
Right.
Nothing's
Yeah,
changed yet.
it's not an easy situation because there's lots
But
of
there's a
things
new
involved.
approach,
Yeah.
and there's some promise.
Right, yep, so, we've got to,
I think what made it a little bit sticky is that we did have the change in health officers, a couple during the last year.
Sometimes.
We had one resigned, and then the select board chair was for a little while, and now we have a new one, Kent, who, you know, from everything I can see, very confident, very competent and concerned about this, I'm sure. So if there's anything he needs from us, we'll be glad to provide it, and we're just really getting more information exactly where we are and what are the next couple steps.
yep. And I've been reaching out to Kent for updates, and he's just recently provided a spreadsheet of kind of all the work that he's done involving his role. So it's been very helpful, and I think that'll be good communication moving forward and good record keeping.
Yeah,
So-
it might be something we could share with the select board, just what activities he's been involved in.
Right,
I
yeah, to an
think-
extent, not in a public
No,
fashion
right,
by any
right.
means, but
Yeah.
some of the, yes,
So, yeah, however, it might be interesting
to-
to see how busy the health officer has been.
right.
Pretty busy.
It's an active role.
Marilee?
I couldn't hear everything you said about what's going to be on the agenda for the next meeting. Are we going to do the Vermont alert?
Yes,
And-
yes,
okay,
yep.
Can there be a civil suit in this health issue between neighbors?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, and I think as far as, you know, that legal path, from what I'm learning now and understanding, that's not going to be the avenue that's going to get change. So there's other things that are going to be more helpful and more productive in this specific situation.
Well, I didn't mean the town, I
Right,
meant
right.
between parties.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that I couldn't answer.
Because at a certain point, if our hands are tied, then that maybe.
Anything else?
I think that's all I can think of now. There are a lot of things going on, but I think I'm getting to that end of week brain. So,
The next item on the agenda is Select Board Forum. Yes, Andrea?
I think 2 years ago, I had asked resident Sparky Milliken to help us address the drape situation in Town Hall, and he'd gotten a quote for doing that, and I think we included it in the budget. And he's been getting requests from the company that gave the information, and they'd like to know whether we can go ahead and do that.
Is that did that item stay in the budget? I don't remember.
I think so.
Well, I
Have to look and see.
I don't know if it was a line item, but it was, I mean, we talked about it.
Right.
And
There was money put in, I think, for, I'll say,
Town hall
upgrading or
maintenance.
maintenance.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess we could look at what that cost is and then where that budget line
Right.
is, and we could make a decision next
okay,
time, I guess.
yeah.
So you want to add that to next week's agenda?
Yeah. May as well get it done.
Yeah. Anything else for Select Board Forum?
I'll look, well, I guess also I would like to thank Marie Ambusk and the Master Gardener Program for not only all of the physical work that they've done in terms of pruning in the Thistle Hill neighborhood and Creekside and along the canal. They've done
Oh,
it.
they're the ones who are doing all the
Yes.
trimming? Yeah.
There were 3 days. I don't know how many volunteers came, but I know Marie was out there. And I think the Highway Department is making progress in picking up the stuff and shipping it. But it's not only the physical, but Marie is an excellent teacher and has pointed out just the importance of planting trees correctly and how many of the trees that have been planted in these developments and homeowners, you know, we can all stand to really be checking and making sure that the trees that we do plant are going to be here in 100 years or even in 25, because lots of trees are suffering from girdling roots. Anyway, it's educational as well as physically removing the trees and exposing their root system.
So, I mean, in some cases, the developers are required to put these trees
Yes.
in. And so what you're saying is we really want to make sure we have in place systems that make sure for the cost of the tree that they're put in, really probably for no more cost, but put them in
Correctly.
the best way. Yeah.
Planting them correctly, which, yes.
Any other items for Select Board Forum? So I had one, we talked about the public comments for the permit, and then the second one was there are some discussions going on with BlackRock about the well that's on their property, which we talked to a few minutes ago. So it's being reviewed, and you know, the hope is that we can find a way to move forward, if it's possible, to add capacity and help you know, continue the development of some of the village. So you know, that's being looked at, and as we make progress, we'll let people know where we stand, and at some point we'll make it public if it gets to that point.
Right. I would certainly like to, early on in the process, get some legal advice on how
Yes.
to do this.
Yep. Anything else? Next item is approving the minutes from 7:20, the last meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from July 20th, 2017.
Are there any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Aye. None opposed. Passed. Consider approving the warrants.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrants and payroll, to include payroll.
Yep. Is there a
Second.
second? There we go. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the warrants and payroll, say aye.
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 Aye. And none opposed, so it's passed.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
8:34.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And are there any more comments from the crowd? Did anybody need to make any more comments? No, I think not. I think not. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.